Hello and welcome. I am Constellation Gaming, and this is Decklist December, where I'll be going through every single day in December and providing a deck list, whether it's towards the fun and something more competitive, regardless. Today I have for you Fire Nexus. So Fire Nexus is mainly based around this guy right here, Kinleo. Kinleo says you can Nexus up to 2 fire when you do target and destroy an opponent Celestial. With the state of removal right now, Earthquake, Laurels, and Race to the Top all being limited all to one, the only copy of a removal spell that hasn't been removed, blah blah blah, that hasn't been limited is Poison Tipped Arrow and also Cryoblast. However, Cryoblast is um, circumstantial, not always a removal spell. It can't really remove stuff like Rabbit or Lavalith or stuff like that. Um, so, with the state of removal, Kinleo is really strong right now, and I think Fire Nexus has the possibility to be one of the strongest decks in the format, if not the strongest deck. Um, Obviously, you're going to have 3 of Astro Rabbit here. Due to the fact that Astro Rabbit is simply the best card in the game. 2/5 that allows you to search the top 3 and pick whichever one you want, then shuffle your deck. Extremely strong, has been the most relevant Lestral since the game came out. Then we've already went over the 3 of Kinleo that you'll have. Next is 3 Nekruff. Nekruff is a 5/1 that says when this Nekruff destroys an opponent's Celestial in battle, that opponent expends 1. Honestly, most of the time, probably gonna fire or water enchant this. Sometimes we'll fire enchant it, but Nekruff is just a decent beater and also does have the possibility to burn for 1. Next up is 2 Rummacle. Rummacle says when you normal cast this Rummacle, you can search your deck for a Stadium Rune or Stoke the Forge. We don't have any Stoke the Forge in this deck. Might add one later on if I feel this is having consistency issues, but uh, we're not running any at the moment. So it's really just a Stadium Searcher. Uh, then Rummacle gets +1 for each fire enchanting it as long as Volcanic Forge is enchanted. So essentially you get +2 attack for each fire instead of +1 with Rummacle. He kind of makes himself a 4/3 with his own ability as long as you play out the forge that he searches. So he's pretty good. Also can serve as a little Nexus bank for Kinleo itself if you don't want to summon the forge out or anything like that. You can just summon Rummacle, search for Forge, then Nexus to Kinleo. That is also a possibility, which is why I run the Rummacle rather than running Jolton. Next, you got 2 Viscerus. Would run 3, but you can't run 3. Viscerus gets +1 attack for each Viscerus on the field. When it destroys an Celestial in battle, summon out another Viscerus. Extremely strong. There's a reason why it was limited down to 2. If you can protect both of them, you just have 2 6 attackers for the price of 1 summon essentially, so it's really strong, and that's why even though this is a Fire Nexus deck, the 2 of is still going to be ran. Next up is Lavalith. Lavalith is better in the Fire deck than most other decks due to the fact that you don't have to rely solely on its normal enchant cost. But I'll read out the ability first. It says he can be normal cast with 2 fire spirits if an opponent has 2 or more enchanting spirits than you do when he summon destroy a rune. So this can be strong as a comeback tool. A lot of people run this card as a 1 of, and then they'll run the 2 fire spirits just in case they happen to draw this card because it's just that strong of a card. We get to play it natively in our colors, and also due to the fact that we're playing fire, we can also ascend over our guys rather than having to sit there and wait for them to be 2 spirits ahead, which can push our lead even harder. Which is why fire, in my opinion, is kind of one of the strongest decks out there right now, especially with the recent limits. We're running 3 of Eddie because Eddie's strong. Eddie gets around pretty much every uh, rune in the entire game except for Gorgon's Gaze. Some situations it doesn't get around Poison Tipped Arrow, but a majority of them, its stat line is still high enough, even with Poison Tipped Arrow, to be able to at least crash with them, if not kill them. To finish off the ELESTRALs, you've got one Warmite. Warmite is a kind of a pseudo 7 attacker with its ability, giving any ELESTRAL -4 when it's in play. Elechic was limited to 1 due to the fact that when it searches one of its Divine Rune and plays its Divine Rune and uses an extra Spirit, it's a pseudo 7 attacker. Warmite's just a pseudo 7 attacker every single turn. So I really do feel like people are sleeping on Warmite, but we really couldn't find more room for Warmite in the main deck. I am running more inside, just a little spoiler there, because Warmite is strong, especially in a lot of matchups where they're trying to hit the number 6. Because some people will say, oh, everybody's hitting the number 5, I'll hit the number 6. Well, Warmite hits 7. Warmite can literally crash with a Cryoburn when it comes out on its own, which is nuts to think about. Next, we'll go on to the counter runes. 3 Gorgon's Gaze. Gorgon's Gaze is the best counter rune in the entire game, simply due to the fact that it says no to literally everything. Until end phase, Celestial is suppressed, can't receive enchantments, can't attack, can't nexus, or ascend. It's pretty much everything an Celestial can do in the game. So Gorgon's Gaze kinda just says no to everything as soon as you cast it. Poison Tipped Arrow, because like I said earlier, removal is limited, so we've got to play all the removal we can, even though we are playing the Kinleo as our form of constant removal. The -2 attack can be relevant because if you look, we've got some smaller bodies here. Not too bad for the most part, with the exception of these 6 cards here. Everything else is kind of a decent sized body. However, Poison Tipped Arrow can protect your Kinleo from anything that's force statted from attacking over it. So it can be very critical, not only in the destroy aspect, but it can be very critical in the -2 aspect to keep your Kinleo alive. Next, we got 3 Tsunami. Nothing to really say about it, just kind of blanks out an entire battle phase, unless they're water enchanted, because it changes all of them to defense position. With your rabbit, it also gives you the ability to go aggro rabbit, because even if they're playing water, a lot of times they don't have the ability to get over the 5 stat line, so you can Tsunami your own rabbit into defense. And that will make it so even if they're attacking in with, like, say, Eddie or something, you don't really care about switching their position. You'll just put yourself back to defense, and it blanks out the combat. Next, we've got 2 Argo. Argo says for 2, it can only be cast when an Celestial declares an attack. Cast an artifact rune from your hand or deck. So it's really good as a surprise element due to the fact that, like we pointed out a little bit ago with the PTA, we do have a little bit of smaller bodies and our Kinleo. So people will more than likely want to get rid of the Kinleo as fast as possible and attack into it as quickly as possible to try to get rid of it. With this, we can take advantage of Argo in the main deck versus the side. Most decks I do play it in the side, however, like I said, Kinleo is a very, very critical must get rid of as quick as possible, so people are going to attack into it more willingly than other decks. So to pair with that, we have Necklace of Harmonia, 2 cost, and Empowered Celestial gets +5 attack during their end phase. They have to expend 2 or destroy the Necklace of Harmonia. Pretty much it's never really going to last until end phase. You're pretty much going to Argo on to the Kinleo, then use it as a Nexus bank, destroy something, or if you draw into it, just play it onto the Kinleo and then Nexus and destroy something. So Necklace, you're never really going to have to pay the -2 But if you do want, you can make yourself a 10 attacker for 2 damage every single turn, and that could be relevant. Uh, Next we've got 2 shield, because big guy strategies are there, and if we don't have our Kinleo out and ready, we can always shield the big guy back to hand, and also just keeping mainly our Kinleo safe for an extra turn, but a lot of our guys safe for an extra turn with shield can be very critical until we can get our Kinleo or some of our board state set up. Then we've got 2 Forge to go along with Rummagem, and also, I mean, it gives our guys +1 attack, and then serves as a Nexus bank for Kinleo. It's kind of the 3 real purposes for it. Then we have Ambrosia here. Ambrosia heals you for 3. Healing in this game is just so much more impactful than in other games due to the fact that healing takes your resources. Or gives you more resources and gives you more ability to play the game. Because everything costs life in order to play. And then we're playing the 1 of Earthquake, 1 of Removal, or 1 of Laurels, because removal is limited and we gotta take it where we can get it. Now we'll move on to the Spirit deck. We got 4 Leviathan, 4 Tyratlis, 2 Zaptor, and 10 Viparbro. So we got the 2 Zaptor for the Astrabbit, 4 Tyratlis for the 2 Viscerus and the 1 Earthquake. Then we've got the Eddies and the Tsunamis that we're playing, so that's why we're playing the Leviathan. Then we've got 10 Viparbro. Our side deck, kind of, it's more or less just the ability to side into 5s, to be honest. We've got Warmite and Galaxy here, where we would take out, like, if it's not really working out, take out some Kinleos, Rummagems, and then side those 5 in. And then we have 2 Astrabbit here. This is for later on in the game. Astrabbit is just, it says whenever it receives a fire spirit, you can target 3 or more cards or 3 cards in your underworld. Not my bad, not or more. Have an opponent choose one and then return that card to your hand or spirit deck. So it can be really useful. Not only can, obviously it says spirit deck, so you could literally just pick 3 spirits and recover a spirit if you want. If you need a specific spirit back, that is a very realistic possibility. Or you can, late game, you can make it to where they just have to pick between 3 difficult targets. So that you could literally be like, alright, Ambrosia, PTA, Gorgons, which one are you going to give me? They're not going to like either of them. Or if you run through all 3 of your Ambrosia, you can literally just be like, alright, pick one of my Ambrosia to give me back. Because I've got all 3. So this can serve as a 4th Ambrosia if you know your game's going to go long. If you have a longer type of game, these can be easily sighted in, and they can be reused since it says whenever it receives it, and Kinleo wants to nexus a bunch. So there's the possibility that it doesn't just get used once. Got 2 Flurmine. Reason why we have 2 Flurmine, even though Trish will tell you you would only need 1 Flurmine for these 3 Cryoblast, I'm in the opinion if you add all your stuff up, you divide it by 2, and if there's a decimal in it, you increase it by 1 if you can, especially if that decimal is 0.5 or above. If it's 0.5 or below, you can sometimes get away with having a less spirit count, but I would still prefer to always round up whenever you can and whenever it's feasible. And I really didn't have any extra slots that I wanted to fill in my sideboard with anything, to be honest, so it didn't do any harm to fill that extra slot with the Flurmine to cover the fact that I do have the 3 Cryoblast. Because I'm the guy who would draw into 2 Cryoblast in a row with 1 Flurmine. Next, we're playing 1 more Argo, 1 Necklace, just in case it's going pretty well, and I feel like we need more Nexus banks. And then 1 of Shield. just for the same reason that shield is in there to begin with, just in case I feel like we need a little more stall or there's a big guy that needs dealt with on a more frequent basis that needs shielded. Because sometimes when you lose board state, this deck can have a really tough time coming back due to the fact that uh, without Kinleo having a board state, it can't really destroy a lot of stuff. And the normal removal that can destroy stuff is very limited in this game. So you really need to try to stay sort of ahead or at least on par. So having that third shield is very crucial in the matchups where you feel like you are gonna get behind pretty easily. But that is the deck list. If you enjoyed, give me a like, give me a subscribe. Uh, Comment on what you thought about this type of format of video. I wanted to try something new, see how it went. Uh, yeah, I will see you tomorrow for another deck list. Have a good day.